Hey, welcome to MSP Initiative uh, call. I guess I'm off, Cynthia. I'm off.
Live casts, webcasts.
Live cast, webcasts. This is going to be recorded. You can watch this just about anywhere. You can go to MSPinitiative.com. I am actually going to show you a couple quick things. Going to do some housekeeping, and then we get into our special guest, Cynthia, and talk all things Cyberqp and channel and community and all that fun stuff. But first, let's do a little housekeeping. Let's make sure you all know what's going on. There's so much happening with MSP Initiative. First, at mspinitiative.com, you can actually go to the sessions. Like I said, all the sessions are recorded, so you can come back here and check those out. Usually it's with the great George Bardisi. I am no substitute for George, but I will pretend to play one on TV. How's that? And then we have Community Minds, which is an all educational event for the MSPs. There is no pitching at these events. You definitely, if you're an MSP, you want to come out to these events. The next one that's coming up is in Denver on September 25th and 26th. Even if you're in the neighborhood and you could come out for one of the days, it still would be worth your while. You're not forced to go to both. If you have one day out of the week that you come on down, you want to check it out, it's a free event to MSP. So it makes perfect sense to be able to come out and check this out. Also, there are community block parties. If you haven't done a block party with George and company, you have missed out. I think Cynthia can also agree. These block parties are absolutely insane. And there are block parties coming up for DattoCon. There's a block party coming up for IT Nation. They also go across the pond and do block parties over there. So make sure you check out the website and go to Community Block Party, and you'll be able to check out all of the different block parties that are going on here and abroad. Just crazy amounts of good time, and they're free for MSPs. You heard that right, Cynthia. Free.
Oh, yeah. Us vendors are happy to get you there. And it is, like you said, a ton of fun, a lot of really great entertainment. But also, like, if you don't, especially the really big ones, if you
Mhm.
don't want to be like where the live music is, because maybe you want to have a conversation or you want to go smoke a cigar or like you want to go do trivia, like, there's always something for everyone, right? Like,
Yep.
there's some quiet corners, there's some places to play games, there's some places to kick back and have a cigar. There's some places to like maybe see something cool. The one last year in Miami was down by the water. So maybe you just like to like stare out at the water, which I can do for hours. I get that. So yeah, there's kind of always something for everyone. So don't feel like, oh, it's just a big loud concert. Like there's definitely something for everyone. And there's also like,
100%.
times as a big loud concert, if that's what you're into.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great statement, Cynthia. It's 100% accurate. I've always heard people say, "Oh, I don't want to go. It's just a no. It's everything." There was
Yeah.
karaoke. There was live band. There was a cigar, like you said. There was the ice luge. There was the game room. There was so many different things, and you could just go outside and sit
Yeah.
and have a conversation. So it wasn't
Get out
like
of the
one
hotel
hall.
for a minute, which is
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
sometimes.
Yep, get away from the hotel that you're crammed into for 3 days, sometimes 4 days, and actually breathe some fresh air. And you're not just in a room with the concert. There's several buildings you can go to and several places you can hang out. So it's actually very well versed and wide range for what you can do.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm no George Bardisi, but I am Ken Patterson from Total, and I'm so happy to be filling in for George today because I have my good friend Cynthia on the other side of the screen here. Wish it was in person, my friend, but this will do for
Always.
now.
I
So
know.
Cynthia, why don't you share a little bit about you, a little bit about your story, and a little bit about Cyberqp, and then we'll break into this.
Yeah, so I'm at Cyberqp, which provides help desk automation. So things like end user identity verification when someone's calling into your help desk so that you're not changing the password for the wrong person, especially a bad actor. And then also automatic rotation of system admin passwords so that you keep those passwords fresh and you don't have all that standing privilege. And we also have just-in-time accounts and account discovery. Like, it does a lot of really great things. It's an awesome tool and it helps your help desk, is what I always like to say. Me personally, I have been on the vendor side of things here in the channel for the last 5 or 6 years. How long has it been? And before that, I actually worked at an MSP. I used to do billing and actually implemented Autotask and would keep Autotask fresh and up to date. And yeah, So kind of a long time around IT, and it was totally an accident. But here I am.
You missed that 10 years of COVID in between.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like, right?
Oh
We
my
see
gosh.
we get to
Yes.
see each other, right? We got to see, I mean, just as general as a community, we all got to see each other from what used to be March to September, October-ish, and then that kind of stretched out to November-ish, and then it stretched out to February-ish. So we were really starting to see each other almost all year. And then you had that COVID hit, and it was like, holy crap. So now when someone says to me, I've been doing this for 3 to 5 years, and it's like, yeah, but that window in the middle, it really makes it seem like there was this long stretch in between where we just didn't see each other and didn't have that piece of it, right?
Well, and such a big pivot too, right? Like I don't know that I would have the knowledge and experience with like virtual events and digital events that I gained from those years at COVID, right? And it became a different way of like, okay, how do you engage and how do you build community even when you can't be next to each other? Surprised a lot of people with how short I am. People apparently weren't expecting me.
It's funny too because you get the opposite of that. Like there's
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
like that where who's pretty tall. Like there's some people that I had no idea how tall they were because of
Like
the window.
Brendan Silva used to be at Black Point, and now he is with
Oh
Civil.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's like really tall, right? Like,
Brendan's tall, and I was on the road with him, so I got to see the tallness because
and I knew too.
you know me, I can't stay in no matter what's going on, pandemic or not. So I had to go out and play. But I did see him in person. Brian Weiss is pretty tall,
Yeah,
um, MSP out of California, and then there's a bunch of like just vendor folks that you don't see that often in the first place. You saw him on screen, and then you're standing next to him going, "Wow, holy
yeah.
moly!"
And for me, pretty much all the time, I'm going like that. But there were some people that were,
It is funny that you mentioned that because we were just talking about the other day about how many times we talk to people through the screen, and obviously it's good and bad, right? We had that screen fatigue where we needed to get away and breathe and do
yeah,
something more than that. But you're right, it brought us together in ways that we didn't think of before. We
yeah,
just didn't
very
do that.
much.
And now everybody's doing happy hours. And, I still do my calls every Thursday from a community perspective
Mhm.
that carried over from COVID. And you're right. It did bring us together in some ways and teach us the right things and the wrong things to do with the screen and all this
Well, and to
interaction.
think outside the box, right? Like, how do you engage with people when you're not literally standing there waving your arms at them?
Right. Right. Yep. It is interesting to see, and you guys, and obviously Cyberqp did a great job and had a lot of virtual events too, and yeah, you guys definitely had your fair
Well,
share of things to do
yeah, and I was with Lion Guard at the time still, and
when
so
it started. Yeah, Lion Guard, that's
yeah,
right.
we were running virtual events. We were, you know, doing all sorts of things. You just got to keep trying something, see what sticks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump in a little bit here, and you know, let me ask you a couple of what's the biggest question you get? The biggest struggle that MSPs have that you guys solve. What are some of the big
Yeah.
ones that kind of, if I'm an MSP and I'm saying, okay, Cyberqp, I heard what she said, but, you know, give me a couple of examples of struggles that you guys have faced head on that an MSP watching this would be able to say, oh, all right, I get that. I have that happen to me all the time.
Yeah. So, first, like the thing that really started CyberQP was that Jim, our COO, used to run an MSP and he hated password reset tickets. And he wanted to see, hey, is there a way that we can can we automate this? Can we put the
Right.
power into the end user, right? And the answer is yes, because we've got an end user app. It's a self-service password reset app where they actually open it up with biometrics like you would with your banking app, and then they can reset it right there. Or when they call into the help desk, and if you're using like Autotask or ConnectWise, there's a plugin right there, right? So the help desk person is not going to have to go and log into another system. They can actually reset everything right there. So now even if you have clients that still want to call in because they love Doug, they want to talk to Doug every time that they need to reset their password, well, that's fine, but Doug can get it done faster. So you cut down on the amount of time that it takes. So that's like one like really easy one for me to give you. Another one would be like if you had to let a help desk person go and you're thinking about all of the admin passwords that they might have had on hand for things like Active Directory or, Outlook 365, things like that, then you can actually go into our system and say, hey, reset all of those right now, and boom, it's done. Instead of logging into all of those systems later that night, trying to think like, okay, hold on, which clients, what could they maybe written down on a post-it note before they left because they were mad that we let them go. So those are two like really easy use cases for me to mention. There's definitely more.
Nice, nice. And definitely you see, obviously, it's definitely very common, especially with passwords now, just becoming either harder to, you have to be smarter to create passwords if you're doing it on your own. I highly
Mm-hmm.
suggest a password manager. I really feel like,
Yeah.
um, you know, it's too hard to constantly come up with passwords. How about just that one that you need to manage your password manager and then just make that a nice phrase and then you're good to go. But having to manage them all and change them all or leave them and think that they're secure,
Right.
when you think about the breaches, the incidents that have happened over the years, and even Microsoft had said, 90 some odd percent of these would have never happened if they had had three things in place: MFA, password
Mm-hmm.
management, and training.
Right.
Three
Because
things, very easy.
your help desk, you get like they're there to be helpful. They want to help, right? So they can make mistakes because they're trying to be helpful. And so if you've had the same admin password just standing, right, standing privilege, sitting there since 1982 or even since last week, it's standing privilege, right? So
Right.
you got to move that target, right? Which is cool with the just-in-time accounts because those actually deactivate, so that you don't have that standing privilege at all. So you're going to that zero standing privilege.
Right. So, from a standpoint of, and I know that you're not the technical person, neither am I anymore. But from what you've been seeing
Yeah.
and this rapid change with AI, are there some things that you can talk about that you think will happen in your industry from the stuff that you're managing now that you're managing more than just the password part of it? What are some changes that you think are going to happen in the next six
I mean,
months to a year?
think we'll hear password lists more often, right? We actually have a password list option for the help desk users when they're creating just-in-time accounts. So I think that's going to be big. And then, like you said, what are all of these extra layers that we can continue to put, right? Why do we constantly have to have standing privilege? I think that you'll see a lot more with that like zero trust help desk. I think you'll hear much more about that.
Nice. And I'm sure your company is aiming right down that aisle.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice. So let's break out a little bit because I've known you for most of this career in the vendor side of things. And
Yep.
the one thing I can say is that I've never felt down when I'm talking to Cynthia at an event.
Oh,
All right. You always bring the energy. It does, and even when you whispered in my ear, it's been a bad day, but that was just a whisper. You were usually the light in the so what advice would you have because you've been the new person on the block. So
uh-huh.
first, what advice would you have for the new person on the block just coming into the industry, um and trying to figure out us crazy people and how it all works? And then two, what would your advice be for the MSP that's coming in new to the channel from a standpoint of events?
Okay, which one first? Vendor or MSPs?
Do the vendor side first because you just had you had that experience in the last 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say big thing, right? I mean, obviously you just gotta like sit back a little bit and watch, right? Like who is talking to a lot of people and seems to sort of know some people and all of that. And then introduce yourself and be honest that like, hey, you're looking to get your foot in the door and here's what we do and I'd love to pick your brain. And what I've found is that in our vendor community, like everyone's really, really, really helpful for the most part. I have people are happy to give you advice, listen to your story. If you have like a little thing like, hey, I'm redoing my backdrop. Can we just have a quick Zoom? I just want to show you like a couple of my graphic ideas or something like that, right? Because we all have opinions. Like I and theories about, how things should look and why or why not, right? And like I have my whole list of whys and why nots of why I do all the crazy things that I do. And it may not be the right fit for you, the new vendor, but like I'm happy to share all of the mistakes I made along the way to get to where my belief system is now, right? And how I like run a booth and how I network and things like that. So definitely sitting back and just sort of listening and watching. And then also like every time you're walking through a vendor hall, like just pause and really look, how are people, like if you see a booth that is always really, really busy, what are they doing, right? So just sort of taking some notes. And then good Lord, do not sit behind your table on your laptop because no one is ever going to talk to you.
You're not supposed to eat lunch back there?
Oh no, my God, no, please, no. Yeah. So the biggest thing I always tell people the first time they're going to come work at one of my booths is you have to look like somebody that wants to talk to people. So if you're staring at your phone or you're on your laptop or you're just talking to the other person in the booth and you're not making eye contact and saying hello or inviting them into like what you're doing, they're not going to talk to you, right? Like not every MSP walking by is going to be this jovial, ready to talk to you person. They might be shy, they might be introverted, right? And so they need someone to say hi, to comment on, like, God, I see you're from Longview, Texas. I've actually been to that hot air balloon festival before, right? Like, take a second and like look at their name, see where they're from. How can you engage? Is that a long enough monologue? I could keep going.
No, it's great. I mean, that's great advice. And the idea here is just to say as much as we want to help people, right? Because we know that there are new people coming into the space. We know what it's like to be the new people in the space from a standpoint of the vendor side, like we're talking about, and then of course the MSP side. But you're right. Find your people. Find people who you see are succeeding and ask them for help. And we have some good and bad people, just like anything else in the industry. If their
Yep.
person just doesn't jive or doesn't feel like they're given the positive vibe, most people will. Don't give up. Ask people for help. And then also always remember to send the elevator back down. The whole, you get to the top, you always look back to the down to the bottom and help out. Always be willing to help other people and remember where it was you started, how
Yes.
you came into the space, why it is that things worked, and usually our community works when we're positive and we help each other and we try to get
100%.
people to the next level. And you're right, there's a lot of introverts. There's a lot of introverted extroverts, which is weird.
Oh, yeah.
You may think that they're extroverted, myself included, but
Mhm.
they're really introverted. It's just learned how to speak and talk to people and be able to have that conversation. But there's certain times where I get like, oh my God, there's too many people in this room.
Yeah.
And how am I going to talk to all these people, right?
100%. 100%. But yeah, and just, looking for ways to engage with people that feels meaningful, right? Like I said, looking to see where someone's from or just ask them a question, start a conversation. Like not every conversation you have at your booth is going to be about selling your product, right?
Actually,
Sometimes
and none
it's
of them should be. You're right. It should be about the personal contact and that connection. And then when they ask, you can tell them. But the worst thing that people can do is pitch. If you jump in and you start pitching people,
right.
that's what people will start
Take a
talking.
little bit of a moment to connect first, right? I
Right.
always tell MSPs too, like I'm here to learn about you and your business. And if what I'm offering at Cyberqp isn't a fit for you right now, for whatever reason, I still want to be the person that you come to and you're like, Cynthia, I'm trying to figure out, like, I have a billing problem. Okay, cool. Well, let's walk around this hall and let's find you the few vendors that help with MSP billing, right? Or, oh
Right.
my gosh, I can't hire an HR person, but I need HR. Awesome. And Sparity is just right over there. Like, let's go talk to them. They're really, really nice. I've worked with them before, right? Like, because as vendors, we all know what each other does, or we have kind of an idea.
Right. That's true. And that's a great point. That's right. Most people will drag you over to the place you need to be. And
Yes.
then also learn who does what and how well they do it so you can do the same.
Yes. And that's something else too that I think is really, really, really important, right? As vendors, I think that we can kind of sometimes do a better job of understanding what each person in the space does so that we can be helpful, right? And then we can see where those stories like really make sense to tell.
Yep. And also, we talk about mental health a lot, and we don't think about how it affects. Remember this, and this is vendor or MSP. You don't have any idea what that person is going through
Yeah.
until you talk to them. And
Yeah.
even then, you might not know what they're going through.
Yeah.
Don't just judge people by your first interaction with them because you have no idea what's going on in their life at that moment when you've done that. So I've really started to get, I've started to personally do this for myself because, I'm Northeast kind of, blunt, guy. And a lot of times when you're fast to react and just like, all right, whatever, and then you don't think about it, there's so many ways that can bite you, and it doesn't do you any good to get that, to do that quickly. And I say that because, there could be a situation where somebody's going through a really big life event and you went to go hit them right at the wrong time and they snapped. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I'm not talking to that person anymore. And then no one wins there. I
Yeah.
really feel like we could spend a little more time thinking that first, like putting that thought in our heads first. And here's a good example. I had an MSP who came to me and said, hey, I tried to go to the local MSPs in my area and be a little bit more open and, to break down the castle mentality. And I went to this
Mhm.
place and, I started to talk to them and the guy was rude to me and just a jerk to me and basically told me to get out. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. And I said, okay. I said, here's a scenario. Let me just put this in your brain. What if you're that person and three other MSPs came to town and told him the very same thing, only they stole his business.
Yeah.
And now he has that wall up, right? It's like the female or the male scorned, right? Once they've been scorned a bunch of times, they're not going to trust. And that's what MSPs, vendors, we all have kind of gone through different levels of being scorned. MSPs mostly, right? Because they don't know when their favorite vendor is going to get bought. They don't know if some vendor is lying to them and then going to hurt them. Like there's all these things that
Or their
happen.
favorite person at that
Yeah,
company
yeah,
leaves because of ego.
exactly.
Like,
There's
yeah.
so many things that happen that make emotions happen. So I said this to this person and said, you didn't think of it from that angle, but think about it. You're an MSP. How many times have you been burned? How many times? And you went to this other MSP and he's been burned probably a couple of times and now he's, angry. You got to come at it from a different angle. He's like, oh my God, I didn't think of it that way. Like I was just
Yeah.
mad because he was mad at me. I'm like, buy him some pizza, send something over, and then just say, look, I just wanted to be able to be on the same level. I get where you're coming from if that's the reason, but changes that she just changed the way you're thinking because you just never know what exactly is happening at that point in time. And I feel like if you adjust that in your brain as it's happening, for me at least, it's helped quite a bit. I don't know what your thoughts on that are,
Yeah.
but
No, I think that it's really, really important to remember that, what we see out here isn't, it's not the whole story, right? And my first thought when you were telling that story was like, for all he knows, like he's lost business to that
I,
MSP that's walking in there all jolly, wants to be friends. And he's like, dude, I just lost like one of my biggest accounts to you. Like, because, that happens with local MSPs.
right,
That's tough. And I think too, right, just being sensitive too as vendors, like when you notice that someone is not up for the conversation that you're trying to have with them, right? Or they're, sort of gruff as they walk by or whatever, like that's fine. Like let them go on their way. They will come to you when they are ready, right? And that's okay. That doesn't have to be a personal attack. It's just
right.
it's where they are in their day, and that's. And then I think it's good to remember too that even when we do look happy, right, we might be very distracted in our minds. We might have a lot going on. I know personally I have been working the booth when I found out a family member passed,
Right.
or that, like my kid that I thought I had everything set up perfectly for now is about to like is 30 minutes away from not being picked up from something, right? Like so now I'm like frantically trying to like do this and have a conversation to be happy and frantically trying to
Yep.
it, it's
Yep.
a lot, right? So a lot of times, just give people some grace, I think is a good message.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that, like I said, sometimes it's hard because you feel like we operate on a different playing field than most industries. We're fast. Everything's
Yeah.
fast. We're like boom, 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 boom. And I operate that way. And then sometimes I'm like, holy crap, I just did 20 things in 20 minutes. Where am I? Where's my brain? And did
Yeah.
I miss something because of that? Did I gotta slow down and I gotta focus and try to make sure that I'm not like doing that,
Yep.
having that boom, 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 boom moment. And you're right, you do it at shows. I mean, we were at a show and we found out that an MSP had passed away, a
Yeah.
good friend of ours. And, I was an emotional wreck and people were noticing it, like literally saying, what's wrong with Kenny P? Like he's not his usual self. And it's like, give me that minute. Like I'm
Yes.
here and I'm very functioning. I'm still highly functioning, but at the same time, that hit me hard. Like it hit me really hard to know that we lost someone that was very close to all of us. It was kind of unexpected, even though we knew he was sick. But man, you're right. You got to have a little bit of grace, and even the best of us, or the best of us that have the biggest smile and put on the show, could still be having something going on. So, yeah,
Yep.
have
You never
grace.
know.
I do like that. That's a great sentence. Have grace.
And then
Or
I think too, back to the like, what do you say to like a vendor coming into the space is like, do find those people that you can trust, right? And it takes time. You're not going to just find it after one event, right? It's multiple events, it's multiple times doing things together and all of that. But, I now have people that when things do happen and I need a quick 30 seconds in the hallway to just be like, oh my God, this is happening. And I'm like having a moment and they need a big hug, okay, I'm going to move on now. Like, I'll be fine for the next couple of hours. But just having those people that you can trust and like, yeah, that's really, really important too.
Yep, you definitely have to have those people, and there's a good core group of people that will always have your back. As
Mm.
what I mean, that's like that piece that we know. And I felt really great when somebody, a new person into the space, I was talking to them and they were like, "Oh yeah, my boss told me that if I'm ever at an event, find you, you're home."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, like I might cry. I might get a little emotional at that rough guy." And it's like when you know that that's how someone feels, at an event, that when they're in the space and it's crowded and they're worried, that's your home base, right? And I think
Right.
that's cool. That was a really cool thing to say, and I felt it because the person didn't even tell me. It was the person, the worker that told me this. Um, I thought that was really cool, and that's something I think we all have to find is find your home.
Right.
Find people like you said, the person you can go out in the hallway and give a quick hug to and be like, okay, I'm good,
Yep.
and get back at it. Remember, it's not all going to be easy. That's the other thing. But don't quit. Don't ever quit. Don't ever give up on what it is you're trying to do just because you met some bad people and
Yeah.
it was negative experience, because I've seen that before. And that'll lead into the MSP side, because the reason
Yeah.
why I say both, Cynthia, is that I started to realize that from an MSP side too, it gets clicky on the vendor side, but on the MSP side, there's this feeling of a click. And
Mm.
sometimes as a new MSP, you come into the space and you're not getting that warm and fuzzy. Other MSPs aren't necessarily pulling you into their groups because they're like, oh, I'm here. I have this association and I'm working with these guys. And they don't mean to do it either. I
Yeah.
think it's starting to warm up a little bit, but for newer MSPs that don't get the channel, because there are a lot of MSPs that don't do the channel stuff. They
Yeah.
just do their thing. They heard about it. They might go to the local events, but they're missing out on the larger exchange events, Channel Futures, IT Nation. Like these bigger events have so much more. And by the way, it has nothing to do with those companies. It has everything to do with the people that are there, like
Right.
all the people that show up, the MSPs. So I bring this over to that side because it's almost like a high school. Like I'm putting this out to the MSPs. When you are at these events and you've been doing it for a long time and you see that kid in the hall that's not talking to anybody, you don't know
Yeah.
what's going through that person's mind. Be the person that goes over to them and says, "Hey, man, what's going on?" Show them where their rooms are, show them where their classes are. Like
Right.
bring them in, right? Because that's what happens. They come to the event, it's all over the place. And especially if you're doing a hosted event where you're drinking out of a fire hose,
Hmm.
take them under your wing, bring them in and show them for a number of reasons. One, it's just the right thing to do and it helps our community. It builds us out better. Two, what if they're the kid that decided to go home and end it? Like, I'm done. I can't handle this. People don't like me. I don't get along, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's that mental health side of thing that just grabs me now. And I think, holy shit, like we got to be smarter about this stuff. We can't just be, you almost can't be jerky to anybody, and there's no reason to be jerky to people, right? So why not treat it like that, where you see new people, you bring them under your wing, and get them, get them as part of your whatever, whoever your groups are, and show them around, and even connect them to other people in the channel so that they get a bit of a warm reception as opposed to holy crap. And then of course the other side of that is being a new MSP is you get into a session and you watch someone stand on the stage and say, you need to charge $500 an endpoint or you're useless. It's like, holy shit, I'm doing it wrong, right? And you already make
Right.
people feel like shit. Like, get them into the right sessions, get them seeing the right people, because our industry does have people like that that make it
Mm-hmm.
even worse.
Right. And they're like, well, you have to offer, this is my standard, my gold standard for security. And if they don't want to pay it for, that's fine. It's like, okay, well, great. How big is the market you're working in? Because maybe this MSP market isn't that big and they're just trying to figure out even how to get over to the next city. And like, everyone's at a different spot in their journey, right?
Right.
And that new MSP, sure, established MSP, you might know a lot more, but this new MSP might have a couple of fresh ideas that you've
Mm-hmm.
never considered because like you've been around since before there was an RMM, right? Like they're going to come in with a different perspective, looking at it with fresh eyes and different thoughts. So I
Got
think
it.
I think there's a really great opportunity for both sides to learn from each other. But then I would say too, right, if you're a newer MSP, or maybe you're an established MSP that's just not done a lot of the channel events and you're coming in and you're sort of trying to figure it out, right?
Right.
You know, go to the meetups, go to the networking stuff, right? Talk to people. A lot of times there'll be different types of networking meetups, right? Something for
Mm-hmm.
veterans, something for women, look and see what opportunities are there. Breakfast is an excellent time to meet some really, really cool people that may not be the loud ones out at the bar, but like they're there the next morning having their coffee, they're up early, they're ready to take on their day, and they're fresh, they're ready to have a conversation, whereas like by the end of the day they might just be like toast,
Yeah.
they don't want to talk, like they're done. So I think breakfast is like a really, really, really awesome time that people don't always consider as like a time for like networking and engagement. But I think you can meet some like really, really cool people that, like I said, are actually ready to talk to you.
You don't even have to say anything either. You can go to
Right.
I would go to a different breakfast table every morning and just listen.
Uh-huh.
And then if something came up, or I had the opportunity after hearing some of the people at the breakfast table, like,
Mhm.
you're right, it's getting different perspectives, having people talk about whatever they will feel like, because they're a little bit more open sitting there at breakfast and having a conversation that's just
Yeah.
open. They're not like in a specific room focusing on any one thing, and you just never know what you're going to get out of it.
And then maybe just asking people like, hey, what sessions are you going to? Or I was considering this session. Have you heard this person speak before? Like, and then giving those other MSPs an opportunity to talk and share their experience with you. And then, perhaps you can say, like, oh, I didn't consider that. I might go try that session instead. And then maybe you sit next to them and now maybe you have lunch together. And now like, you're learning from each other and you've made the connection, right? But you've just got to try.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because someone had said to me at PAX 8 Beyond, because literally I feel like everybody I ever met showed up at one place. It was so crazy having 2,500 people, and during the reception I talked to so many people, but not in a meaningful way because there was so many people. It's like, Cynthia, oh my God, hey, and you're like, you're getting pulled in all the different directions. And someone said to me, he's like, how the hell did you get to know these people? It all started with my first event and me being willing to sit and listen and ask questions. And then all of a sudden, and by the way, it was in correlation to my business growing too. My MSP took off after I started coming back from these events with information and learning and trying to figure out how to do it. Met new vendors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Met new MSPs, started to form this group of friends. And then, then sat on the exchange advisory board and really got like connected to everybody in the space. And it was just like, it doesn't happen overnight, but it has to start with that very first visit. You have to actually execute and go out there and do it and take your first shot at going to these events and being a part of it and stringing some together. I don't recommend going to every single event because you have no time for your business, but pick two or three, one a quarter that has something there that means something to you and your business. Or if you're just looking to kind of gain more access to the MSP side of the business, go to the bigger ones. IT
Mhm.
Nation, Exchange, those ones are going to have more MSPs. Even DataCon will still have a large amount of MSPs there. And so if that's what you're looking for, pick the ones in certain times that you can go to. And then what I say to all MSPs and vendors, make your plan. Create a plan before you go to the event.
Mhm.
A list of who you want to talk to, what you want to get out of it, and all those things, and stick to the checklist because even someone like me who's been doing it for a long time, I did not expect what I expected at PAX 8. And I didn't talk, some people I meant to talk to, I didn't even get to talk to.
Right.
2 days, and I think we figured out, I talked to 780 people or something ridiculous. Like we went through and we were trying to figure out all the people that we actually came in direct contact with for more than 30 seconds. And it was
Right.
over 700 people, almost 800 people. And I'm like, that my brain hurt, especially someone who wants to take the time to, have conversations and be more meaningful. And the fact that a couple people, I was like, hey, let's talk at PAX 8. And then at the end of it, I'm like, how did we never talk?
I know. I have literally been at shows before where someone like I posted, that's a wrap, right? And here's all the, had a great time. And I post all these pictures on LinkedIn and then had someone go, I was there. How did I never see you? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there were 3,000 people there, so maybe that's part of it. But you would think that like these people
Right.
that and would recognize and stop and have a conversation with, and you might just miss each other the entire time,
So
which
if it
is
happens to us who have been doing it a little bit and we know that it's going to happen to you. So if you're an MSP or a vendor, create a checklist because the
yeah.
people that you really wanted to meet and talk to, you should. Because especially if you're not out on the road that much and you've only picked a few events to go to, this is your opportunity to meet someone face to face and you have that on your list of to-dos. Make sure you do it. Stick to
Well,
that.
and then make sure that you're connecting with people on
Right.
LinkedIn so that you know if like maybe you're going to be at the same event so that you
Right.
can have that coffee or you can, meet up in whatever meaningful way and talk about your business. The other thing that I think as vendors can be great for sometimes for MSPs too is, I had recently at IT Nation Secure had a conversation over dinner and this MSP was talking about how much they really, really liked this one vendor that they used. And then I happened to have a conversation the next day with someone that was considering that vendor. And I said, oh, well, hold on. Let me let you talk to this guy because he loves them and he can like give you all of this information about why. And so it was actually like able to introduce them in a hallway and let them have that conversation. But now they're actually getting to have like a real life testimonial about what's gone right and why it's gone right, because it might be going right because of the way the MSP set it up from the beginning, or maybe some tiny term that he negotiated or something. Like you never know. There's nuances to everything. But
Right.
those are the types of meaningful conversations that you can have. And a lot of times, us as vendors can help you facilitate like finding those people.
Yep, 100%. And that's a great way to approach it. It's all about those connections, and that's the other thing that helped grow my network was doing exactly that. Just connecting people and saying, "Oh, you guys might be able to help each other." It's not that,
I got to listen.
yeah, you got to get rid of that whole what's in it for me attitude mentality. It's not what's in it for you, it's what's in it for us, our community as a whole. Every time we make that connection, we make our community better.
100%.
Right? It's just so easy to do. Oh, wait, I know someone in Texas who needs somebody in Arkansas. Like, here, you guys should talk, and here's the information. And then a year later, they're like, oh man, Kenny P introduced us, and we've been doing this ever since. And then they started connecting people. And it has this really positive effect in our community. And I really think we have the best, it's the craziest, but we have the best community in any industry. I think it's crazy and we have a lot of work to do, but at least we have way more people. At least I've been doing this a really long time. And I feel like we have way more people making it better than in
Yeah.
the past. There's way more advocates. There's especially like I've never seen something, we've always had security, but cybersecurity just blew up, right? And so that was one of our new chunks. Like, oh my God, everything's about cybersecurity. But then you have all these people tied to it. You got the Matt Lees of the world, right? That jump right in. And he's not talking about Pax 8. He's talking about making it all better for the whole community, right? And
Right.
Don Kirby. And there's so many people. And
Legal, yeah.
you don't see that in other industries where people are just completely selfless because they want to rise the tides, right? And I really feel like we have to just keep doing that too. We can't forget it and think, oh, it's on cruise control now, because we're always going to need it, and we're always going to need to take a step and make it better and keep plugging that. And now we're diving into AI, and the world wants to know about AI, and how quickly that got adopted. And thank God we got guys like Jimmy who are stepping in and saying, hey, I can help MSPs and help you plug in, right, and do stuff like that. So it's good that we're that agile, and we're that selfless, where people are actually willing to not talk about them.
Right.
It's about us as a whole, that whole better together. We are community, all of it. Rising tides raise all ships. It's 100% accurate, and we have to keep working at it. So that's why I always ask, like, if we got new folks coming into this community and you need help, there's so many advocates out there. Make sure you find your advocate, your home, your person, whatever it is, and get involved and find
Well,
out
and
what's.
your safe place to like have a sounding board, right?
Yeah.
We all get some harebrained ideas, and I just need someone to tell me, like, have I totally lost my mind, or would this maybe work, right? And I've found those people, and you know and it's just it's a group of really, really smart and interesting and different, and no two people are quite alike. Yeah, it's really great. When I try to explain to people, they're like, oh, you work in cybersecurity. And then like they'll like say the name of some huge cybersecurity company or something. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Okay. So, like when the hospital needs an IT company, right? And then they hire this like IT company. So that's called an MSP, a managed service provider. Okay. My cybersecurity is for the managed service provider. So it's like a niche within a niche. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yes, we have our whole little subworld over here.
Right, right. Yeah, people don't understand that. You're right. It is hard sometimes to talk about the services we provide. And then I always say, because it's finally, COVID actually finally pushed this forward. As bad as COVID was, there were so many good things that came out of COVID. And one of them was MSPs are finally actually thought of as first responders,
Right.
right? And it's funny because you say, well, wait a minute, why? I'm like, well, what is separate from your family, your health, what is the most important thing in your life? It's your business. It pays for your family. It pays for your health. It pays for, if that's your livelihood. And by the way, who's protecting that? Well, that would be the MSPs.
Right.
They're protecting most of the businesses in our country and around the world now. They're protecting that asset, that your liability, your whole world. And it's about time we're finally taking that seriously. Now, of course, I was one of those old school MSPs. We started out selling like used car salesmen, and that's what got us in trouble in the first place, where most of the businesses started to think of us that way. But we've become much more prescriptive as MSP community, and we're
But
starting to focus and do it the right way. And I think this is cool that now it's pushed up to, hey, you're the first responders of the business world.
well, in the beginning, though, I mean, it was break fix, right? You had a computer that plugged into the wall at your office that was not connected to any other computers. I mean, it wasn't your fault. That's just, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, that's how computers were.
Hey, that's not nice. I had electricity,
I'm
Cynthia.
joking. I'm joking. I remember when our MSP like signed up, got our first RMM, and we were and like they were explaining it to me, and I was like, I think I get that. And I like walked away, and I was like, I don't know what he just said. Whatever. Like just I'm gonna go back to yelling at people about their timesheets. But like it evolved over time. The what's amazing is in really a short amount of time, how much it has evolved, right?
Oh,
And how quickly it went from like, we just had a computer that plugged into the wall to we have a computer that plugs into the wall that plugged into a phone line that then plugged into, high speed internet and like all this just very crazy fast progression. And MSPs had a lot of, work to do to stay with that because the bad actors were like, ooh, I'm gonna go in here and hack. We had to catch up with that because that's
you
not
just
how we
made,
were thinking. We were just trying to like get the printer to unjam.
you just gave me the verbal version of you just put a picture in my head. Remember the photo with the guy carrying the boombox with the watch with the thing, and it said all these things have been replaced by this, and it's your phone. Your
Yeah.
phone can now replace your boombox, can
Yes.
play music, has a watch, has a camera, has a video
Has
recorder,
books.
right? Has books, all these things that we had to, in the 80s. And I'm sorry, I'm dating myself, but
Yeah.
back in the days when we had all these different things that we had are all been condensed into a phone, right? And it's the
Right.
same with the computer. The things that you can do, you know, on a computer is crazy. I remember I remember buying encyclopedias.
There was an entire set at my house.
Yeah. And it's like,
I remember reading encyclopedias,
yeah,
right?
right.
Like,
That's where
yeah.
you got your information. It was very static. And now it's information is flying to your fingertips.
I had these like big National Geographic books, and some of them were about animals, and some of them were about places, and some of them were about mountains or whatever. But like if something came up that I wanted the answer to, I went to the bookshelf in the living room of my parents' house and either picked an encyclopedia or a National Geographic book and like looked for the information. How
It's
like it's crazy
it's
how
an
different that is.
world. Yes. It's now we sound like our parents. Well, back when I was a
Hey,
kid.
come on, dude.
It's true. And that's why now there's so much like when I talk to MSPs about, my time in the space and then my transition, I always go back to holy crap. Like you're liable for so much more
Yeah.
as an MSP because everything rests on your shoulders. And by the way, it was only a short time ago where you could write a little disclaimer and say, well, my customer decided not to use backup and not to use this, but here it is. I wrote this on a piece of paper and you signed it, so it makes me not liable. That's gone.
Yeah.
You have to you have to be more careful with the customers that you pick to be, to work with, because if they're not taking your security stack seriously and something goes wrong there, you're still the person who takes care of their network. So for me, it's like, oh wow, so much more to think about and worry about. There's the good news is there's so many vendors that can help and fill those gaps in, and you can find them and talk to them and kind of have that happen. But it's a lot harder to make those decisions now. You really have to trust the people you're talking to and trust that all these different things won't go wrong. Yeah, I'm a bit more nervous even thinking about it because someone always said to me, well, would you start an MSP? I said, yes. An MSP right now to start up would be super easy, but not because I did it before, but because of the tools we have now, the solutions. You got the Pax8s and the SureWebs and these companies that can get you kickstarted right out of the gate with a stack, and then
Yeah.
you can go to work. It's just there's a whole lot more to protect on the other side, and there's a lot more rules that you have to comply by.
Yeah. And the automation too, right? So
Right.
you can do a lot more with a smaller staff and
Mhm.
um so that really helps your overhead. It was just it's all very interesting.
It's funny because it's like we said, the vendors evolved too. Like you got the crush banks, the roosts of the world, like stepping in and helping with these things. And then I'm talking to someone, they're like, oh yeah, I got roost in play and I saved like 8 hours. Like 8 hours, like that's gold.
It's a whole day.
Right. You just saved a day's worth of work doing
Yeah.
automation. Oh, okay. To me, that's the stuff that, wow, you look at these new vendors step right in. And look, it started getting really cool when Nerdio stepped in and started automating the stuff that we thought at the time was simple. But Nerdio can kind of step in and take all this work that you have to do in Azure and allow an admin to do it. Like, remember the days where you had to hire an Azure engineer and you had to do this? And sure, bigger companies are doing that. But when I started to see that, that was to me the beginning of some of that stuff where, holy crap, wait a minute, they have this all set up where you can drag and drop and have this work this way. Boom. And then obviously we have so many new vendors coming on and doing every time something pops up, we seem to have vendors a little bit ahead of it pop in and say, oh, we can do that. Oh, you want
Uh-huh.
automation? Yeah, that's us. Right.
Um,
And I think you guys kind of did the similar thing with the stuff that you're doing, right? It started with Pam, right? And being able to do that stuff out of the gate. And then you guys have just said, oh, wait, we can do this too. We can do this. You're just in
right.
time stuff, right? The zero trust help desk. That's cool to me how everybody's been able to evolve with the things that are coming into play in the space.
Yep. 100%. Well, and like we saw a need, right? Like a lot of cybersecurity insurance are saying, hey, no, 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 no more shared admin accounts. We don't want an admin access for 5 people at, 5 help desk engineers across all of your clients, right? Like that's not the right answer. So
Right.
that's where the just-in-time accounts come in, right? And like we've got an amazing, amazing, amazing engineering team. When I came on, actually, our engineering team was larger than our sales and marketing, and I think they actually still are, right? Like there's like a dedication to the product there that is just second to none. Fantastic. So yeah, it is really cool to see what all they keep coming out with. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I just figured out how to like explain what we're doing in my words, right? Because that's the other thing, right? Like technical to a point. I'm very tech adjacent, but like I've got to find a way to say all of these things in a way that like makes sense to me and that you are going to believe what I'm saying, right? And that I'm not
Right.
just like reading a script. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Explain that to me again. Is it so it's sort of like this?
Right. And it changes so much. Yeah.
It
I mean,
does.
even I came from an engineering background and slowly started to learn the business side of things. When I say slowly, I mean slowly. But I pulled out of that finally and got my head in the space and started to learn the business side of things. And still now, like I understand it when all of it when it gets to a point, but the security stuff has gotten to a whole nother level. All of it is just going to a whole different level of what it can do, what it needs to do. I talked to Matt Lee one week, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, yeah, that thing we were talking about, yeah, that's already broken. Like there, it's crazy to think how things change so fast, like we talked about, and it's even faster now. It seems like it's like you know, every 6 months. And that's why I also tell people, hey, if you've looked at a vendor and you haven't looked at them in the last 3 months, you should be checking out every vendor at least every three
Well,
months
and that
because it's
that was
different.
something I was gonna say when we were talking about like MSPs at a show, right? And you were
Yep.
talking about having a game plan. You know, night one, maybe like go and have a plan to talk to all the vendors that you already work with. Hey,
Right. Oh,
what's
absolutely.
what's
Right.
going on, right? Like, is this person that was my account manager still my account manager? Like,
Right.
just kind of go through all of
Mm-hmm.
that. And then night two, okay, here are the 3 problems I'm trying to solve currently in my MSP. And it looks like these are the vendors that might be able to help me with that. Okay, now here's my map. Here's where I'm gonna go. Like, yeah, you have a plan instead of just wandering around. Yeah, and it's such a good opportunity to talk to the vendors that you are already using,
Right.
right?
100%. And I don't mean, yeah, first of all, I don't mean change your vendors. I mean, you should understand what the vendors in the space are doing and understand that if you talked to someone 6 months ago, they could be doing something completely different. So do
Yes.
your homework and understand that those things have changed. I mean, I see it. I work at, I'm at Total now, and the things that I was talking to them about a year ago are completely changed to now. So it's those types of things. Same with you guys, right? I look at your line card, I'm like, holy crap! Like, look at all
Yeah.
the things they do from day one, right?
Ooh, we
Uh,
added an API too. Now there's an
yeah.
API you
See,
can plug
see,
into, which has been great for some of the bigger MSPs that are looking to do some stuff there and lets us talk about some other integrations, right? But that's all new. The funniest one for me has been because we had a rebrand a little over a year ago, and so I'll be talking with someone and they're like, "Oh yeah, we already have that. We do that with QuickPass," and I'm like, "Okay." So haven't read a newsletter lately. That's us. See the QP.
that's a good one.
It's all right though. You know what? They're busy. They're running their business. The bill's getting
But
paid. Passwords are
that's
getting
a
rotated. Like they're
that's a
happy.
great one. Oh wait, what?
What?
Yeah,
Oh
that's
no,
funny.
no. I have this with QuickPass.
Somebody, who was it? Somebody had, just you're right. People kind of get busy and they put their head down. Like, um, somebody had moved from one company to another, and we were talking about that person, and they were like, "Oh, wait, what did they say? Oh, did that company change their name?" And I'm like, "No, the person we're talking about left the other company to go to that company." They're so focused on the person, they didn't realize that he changed companies. They were just following the person.
And this, folks, vendors, up and coming, you've got to be branded all the time. It's so important. Even though you might not want to wear that t-shirt 1 second longer, you got to be branded all the time.
It's very interesting. So,
You
Cynthia,
can move into your company's colors,
there
you
you
know.
go. There you go. I'm close. I'm close to yours. Um, you guys have a great team. I love what I like. When I look at companies and I want to better understand their core. I always go to the leadership and Jim Jessup and Mateo. Like you have some great human beings over there. So great company to know. If y'all haven't checked out Cyberqp, make sure you check them out. Reach out to Cynthia. Cynthia, tell everybody where they can find you. What's the best way to find you?
Probably on LinkedIn, Cynthia Schreiner, Schreiner, or just go to Cyberqp page and then you can find me there under people. But I'm all over LinkedIn all the time. And then other than that, you can probably find me at a booth because I am booth.
It's true. That is true. Where will they see you next on the road? What's some of
I'll
the next couple of
be,
shows?
yeah, so I'll be at Exchange Security in Frisco. Love that Omni. Very excited. And let's see. And then after that, I'll be at ChannelCon in Atlanta for CompTIA's big show of the year, which always love that one too. So much good education for everyone.
Nice.
That's another great one, right? Like if you haven't signed up for that, if it's not on your radar, that is a fantastic show to go to just meet people and to learn a lot and to see a lot of vendor agnostic education, right? These are people that come together, volunteer. I'm on a workforce council, right? And like we just volunteer our time to try to like think through how we can better educate and better help. So, and that's what CompTIA is all about. So it's a great one to go to.
Nice. I'm going to be at all of those. So I will see you
Yay.
as usual, or maybe not because we'll be at our booths and we'll be crossing in the night. Who knows? But I'll
What do I
definitely.
always say? You'll hear me before you see me because I'm
That's
loud.
right. That's right. Make sure you come out and check out Cynthia and her team at those events or go find her at Cyberqp's website, cyberqp.com. Like I said, fantastic team, leadership all the way down, great people, great solution. And so glad I got to fill in on the day that you were going to be here. So that worked out
Me too.
perfectly.
This
Thanks
is
very
great.
much, Cynthia. As again, this has been recorded. You guys can check this on just about every platform. George has it out there, YouTube. Any way you want to watch it, you can listen to it on a podcast. You can watch it on the website, mspinitiative.com. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Cynthia, as always, great to see you. Thank
Good to
you.
see you too, Ken. Thank you so much. Thank you to
Everybody.
MSP Initiative. Bye.
Bye.